Hello. In this lesson, we would like to recap on exponential functions and logarithm functions, which we covered before. And then we introduce and review the exponential functions properties, exponential properties, logarithm properties. Okay, just to give you an idea where exponential function and logarithm function were covered before. So this is the second time around that we touch these topics, right? This should take you back to week number two. Week number two. Yes. In week number two, right? In week number one, we covered all of these basic concepts, math principle, truth table, and some functions, right, in that table. And we talk about one-to-one function, inverse function, composition, one-to-one function, increasing, decreasing functions. And then in week number two, we covered, you can see here, exponential function, logarithm function with different bases, right? Base 2, base logarithm function base 2. So at that time, we cover exponential and logarithm functions pair by pair, as they are one-to-one functions, and they're both increasing functions, and their domain range relationship. Okay, that's where we talk about it before. In week number 3, I do encourage you to go back to watch those, because you might have forgotten. So this is the second time we go over these functions. And we will have the third time to go over too, which is for, I will point it out that when we do simple log function, exponential function, in the future, we will do a little bit more complicated exponential and logarithm functions in the coming weeks, after we do the quadratic. Okay, so in week 3, you can see in these lessons, we have covered exponential log functions, base 3, base E, and so these are the sections, if you like to review how those functions are being graphed, the domain and range are being discovered, right? And that's where you can go back to. And in week number 10, which is this week, right? You will see that in addition to recap on those properties, we covered exponential and logarithm properties, common mistakes, okay? Common mistakes. These common mistakes, you have quizzes that, cover these common mistakes, and how to apply logarithm properties correctly, change your base formula, make a single logarithm, and simple exponential equations and simple logarithm equations are covered. Okay, so of course, all of these are related to week 2 and week 3 coverage of those materials. Okay, so now let's take a second look of the homework. Well, first look of the homework, right? The reason I said second look, because in the lessons I went over those materials, right? When I went over the lessons, I talk about the homework. I mentioned the homework. So this may be your first look, but it's my second look. So I hope this is your second look too, okay? We have a little bit more homework than other weeks, I have to say. Okay, so in this week, we have more homework questions. The first set of homework, okay, the first set of homework is about one of the logarithm properties. Okay, so the first set of homework is about, let's see, am I sharing the screen with you? Yes, I am, okay. So the first set of homework is about the property. Let me put it side by side, right? So you can compare, okay? The first set of homework, hold on, just a second. Okay, let's see, wait. There. Okay. So I will do a side-by-side comparison for you, so you know which properties we're talking about. So you can have a more focused study. But after all, this is just a guideline. It doesn't replace your watching the lessons. Okay, it doesn't replace your watching the lessons. Okay, so please do watch the lessons, but I also encourage you to read the textbook. Read a textbook. Okay, read a textbook. So my next thing I will share with you is the homework guide. Okay, using this piece. Okay, so let me share that. Okay, so this way you see both screen. The homework guide, right? So the first question, okay, you have a variety of questions, right? But primarily, but this one you use definition. The first one you use definition, but the first one is primarily is about the application, of course, based on the definition, right? Logarithm function and an exponential function, they have a relationship. Okay? So that relationship goes like this, okay? Every symbol is a placeholder. And in this relationship, okay, b raised to the power of triangle is equals to omega, okay? And here we emphasize the importance that the base for exponential functions and logarithm functions, they must all satisfy this condition, which is positive, but not equals 1. So under this condition, right? So from this definition, the first property that's been derived, which was derived before, right? In week 2 and week 3 lessons, which is going to be b raised to the power of log base b equals to omega. Okay, so this set of exercise is about using this property for different bases. It could be base 10, base e, base 5, base 3, right? So that's what it is for. Okay, so this is a practice, this very important property. This property actually is used in calculus, okay, calculus 1, okay, very useful property. Okay, the one you use in calculus 1 will be this one, exactly this one, okay, and the others is just practice. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2 is about the use of quotient rule and product rule. Okay, product rule and quotient rule. It goes like this: log base b, oops, wrong place, sorry. Log base b, okay, 2 quantities, a times b is equals to, okay, you can put a parentheses, but oftentimes it's optional. Log base b of capital A plus log base b capital B. Okay, once again, this is just a homework guide. Okay, it doesn't replace your watching the lesson. And the next property that we talk about in these lessons were log base b, a divided by b equals to log base b capital A minus log base b capital B. Okay, so this is the exercise over here is using these properties. You're going to see how these properties can be used from left to right, right to left. Okay, so you can use these properties from left to right or right to left with various bases. The base could be 10, could be 2, could be 6, could be 3, could be E, right? So here, actually, we didn't have many exercises with E, just one, right? But anyway, just practicing with using these properties, left to right, right to left. Okay, continue. Okay, continue. Exercise number 3. Okay, continue to use these variety of properties. Okay, besides the power, beside this this property, right? This is log base b. There's another property. It's actually called a power rule, right? So we have omega to the power of I use whatever symbol, right? There's just placeholder, really doesn't matter, right? Placeholder, right? And that piece stays over there. So you can just bring down the power and put in the front of the logarithm. Okay, so these properties, you can see you have in homework number 3, you get to use all of these, all of these properties, not just one, or not just for one. You can just use it in different ways. Okay. Number 3, change your base. Okay, change your base formula. Change your base formula. Change your base formula. We have a excuse me. We have a specific set. We have lessons cover change your base formula. Basically, it goes like if we have an old base on omega, okay, it equals to log base of a new base, okay, on omega still. The denominator is going to be log base, the same new base on the old base. So this is change of base formula. However, right, these exercise, even though I mentioned you can use change of base formula, you can also try other methods as well. Other methods may work too. Okay, so all of these exercises is to help us to be better at using these properties. That's it. Okay, that's the purpose. Okay, so don't get stuck up to use just one method. Think of using that method from left to right or right to left. Okay, because they are left is the same as right. Right is the same as left. So you can use left to right, right to left. Okay, left to right, right to left. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5 and number 6. These are focusing on using these 3 properties. Okay, 5 and 6 focuses on using these 3 properties. Okay, so actually I don't like this color. Make it a more prominent color. All right, all of these, right? These 3 are going to be used for this set, which is left to right, right to left. Okay, left to right, right to left. Okay, so you can see on number 5 is left to right. Number 6 is right to left. Repetitively, and be careful. Okay, we have a special session to cover common mistakes. Common mistakes. Your quiz has a lot to do with those common mistakes. Okay. All right. So that's number 5 and number 6. Number 7 is solving equations. For simple equations for exponential functions and simple equations for logarithm functions. In this section, multiple methods are, okay, multiple method. Okay, so multiple methods are illustrated with examples. With many examples, okay? domain and range, excuse me, domain and range are addressed over and over, addressed and emphasized. Domain and range are addressed and emphasized, and as their application, okay, the domain and range is much emphasized, okay? So that's number 4. Multiple method for both. In particular, I wish you guys to compare, okay? Compare the function perspective. Function perspectives with the same, with the similar questions for other functions, such as, right, trig functions, etc. Okay, the function method we address here is often not talked about by textbook for understandable reason. Okay, number 1, it could be there are not enough pages. Okay, number 2, the cons and may make it necessary, may make it seem negligible for the presentation of function method. However, in the coverage of our lessons, I think it's very important to understand the function perspective, because this entire course, okay, entire course is taught in the theme of function. So I teach this course by staying in that theme. And I demonstrate to you that all of these is about functions, okay, composition of functions. And right now, of course, we're dealing with these simple functions, okay? So if you look at the functions perspective, there's certain methodology. They are very, very consistent. They are consistent. The consistency is remarkable and is definitively worth noting. And especially for you guys who have taken or might have forgotten a lot of the math you have learned before. And of course, for some of you, this may be the first time you encounter these contents. But if you have a perspective, you have a function perspective, it could help you to understand all of these things. That you see consistency, you see the methodology, and there's remarkable consistency out there. So that's what I try to demonstrate. That's what I've tried to demonstrate, okay? So homework, okay? Regarding the homework questions, I think this is plenty. Okay? If you have any questions, so please do not hesitate to reach out to me, okay? And just ask questions, okay? And at times, sometimes I was thinking, is it too much? Is it too much for this lesson, right? For this week to have covered so much material? Okay, I certainly would like to hear your feedback. Okay, so for week 10, we have so much material. It's a lot of material covered, okay? And I will probably prepare another quiz for you, which is, cover some, sporadically some other questions on the homework. So you're gonna have another quiz in this week. But studying these lessons, make sure you study all of these lessons. The homework guide doesn't replace your study of those lessons, okay? And also, if you look back, okay, I want to give you that perspective, right? I would like to give you that perspective. If you look back, we put solving equation along with the if statement, right? So in this part, we have if statement in here. So these are the if statement coverage. Okay, so these are the if statement coverage. These are the if statement coverage, okay? These are the if statement coverage. So you can see when we are dealing with if statement, the methodology are very, very comparable. Okay, horizontal measurement from the origin is the input, is for the input. Vertical measurement from the origin are for the output. So that doesn't change if you have a graph of a function. Okay, it's very important to understand that. So we are either given input or given output. If we're given input, it's a vertical cut. If output is given, it's a horizontal cut. Okay, so that's the major theme we see as from functions perspective. And will these change? And this will not change for a very, very long time until you probably deal with two-dimension, until you start dealing with the three-dimensional, which though might be, it's not really change. It's going to be just a generalization of the same idea. Okay, and next, okay, looking ahead. Okay, looking ahead. We will come back to solve exponential equations. So here we're solving simple exponential equations and simple logarithm equations. We will come back to solve more, maybe more, more exponential equations, okay, and the more logarithm equations. Okay, so that will come in the next few weeks. So you can see it's very, very important you know how to solve simple exponential equations and simple logarithm equations before we can solve more exponential equations or more logarithm equations, because those other ones we are about to solve in the future 2 weeks is going to be more, I would say it's going to be more complicated. It's going to be a little bit more complicated, okay? But they are academic questions. They're mostly academic questions. So with the function concept, I think they will be very clear, will be crystal clear to you. And all of these properties will get to be used when we solve more quote unquote complicated exponential equations and the logarithm equations, okay? So it's important that we have a good foundation before we get to the more complicated issues, okay? So expect another quiz this week, and don't forget, if possible, I would like you guys to review the previous week. Don't forget those, because as we get to the final exam, all of these will be covered. All of these will be covered, okay? From week 1 all the way to week 16. And so it's very important that you maintain that habit, right? You study the current week and you also review the previous week. In this week, week number 10, as I mentioned earlier, you should also review contents in week number 2 and week number 3 on related topics such as exponential logarithm functions. Okay, and I think that's about it for the homework guide. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to come to my office hours or just send a message to me, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions anytime. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a great week.